morning, everyone, and welcome to Talking Horses. Sarah Albadwi and Andy Sterling as we start off another week here at Aqueduct. And it's like the theme. We start off, it's nice weather. We'll see how things go from here, but we're on the turf. We are fast and good off the turf in race 4. Race number 2 has been moved to the outer turf course. I think the outer's at 24 and the inner's at 18. It's one way or the other, but I think it's the outer at 24, but take a look at that again. Anyhow, looking forward to the week. Forward to be back in action. I'm only here today and Saturday, though. I think you're on with me both days, right?
I think I am, yes,
Yeah.
Because some of us are going to Far Hill. I am not some of us.
Some not us. Not some of us. Some of them are going to Far Hills. No, and last year at Far Hills for the jump races, we'll be showing those on America's Day at the Races. It was a beautiful day and everybody, we were all jealous they went there. I hope it's a nice day for them this year, but I'm not sure everybody's going to be jealous of them this year, but that's the way it goes, especially these days. Anyhow, looking forward to the card. Head over to Naira Bets. We have a new promo as we are now just a little over 2 weeks from tomorrow for the Breeders'. 2 weeks from tomorrow for the Breeders' Cup.
It's crazy.
Cup 25 is the promo code. Use that at Naira Bets, nairabets.com. Not only the $200 sign-up bonus will match the $200 of your initial deposit, but also a $25 free bet as we head towards the Breeders' Cup. Those races, the pre-entries, I guess they sort of pre-entries come in on Monday, but they don't release them until Wednesday, and then Wednesday the pre-PPs come out through DRF, so looking forward to taking a look at those. That's pretty amazing. Actually, next Wednesday they'll be coming out. So it's always, we sort of know the U.S. horses going. The Euros, in the past I've gotten sort of advanced notice Euros will be coming, and my experience is they're never the right ones. It's like, I get those, like Steve Bickle said to me and say, these horses, and I'll always work on them and let them show,
I guess Inspiral will now be coming?
Apparently, yeah, it's just not clear if she's going to run in the mile or
the turf.
Or the turf. I'd be surprised if they stretch her out, but perhaps they will. Anyway, those will be next week. We have, oh yeah, you know it, 2, 3, and 6. The pick 4s today, 2 pick 5s, races 1 and 5 in the pick 5. And we are on from 12:30 to 5, covering all 9 races. All right. We good?
I'm ready.
All right. Race number 1, mile and an eighth. Is it me? I don't feel like we've had that many mile and an eighth races at this meet.
At least not maiden races, for sure.
Yeah, I just don't feel as though there are times we seem to run more of them, but it just, for whatever reason, doesn't seem we've run this many. And you think we run more being how much we've been off the turf. And stamina obviously becomes an issue. And here I think Vanished will be, if not the favorite, one of the favorites. David has the horse, the favorite in the morning line. It's Irad Ortiz. And it's funny that the horse ran okay, first time. Cecile beat her, pretty good. And then they ran in the dirt. She ran well, and Todd went right back to the turf. And now he's going to the dirt. I don't know what to do with her, but I'm just not, I don't fully trust her, Sarah.
I don't either. I don't like when horses make the lead and then they get passed by a horse to the inside. And I know that we've talked a lot about the nuances of Ellis Park and how this is more of that speed favoring type of racetrack.
The rail was good, so she was a little against it, to be fair.
You did want to be on her just off the pace by a length or two that day. There were, in fact, only 2 horses that were sitting sort of mid-flight that day, and they were both heavy favorites that were able to be successful. But at the same time, I don't know that her last 2 turf races were as strong as her debut either.
Sure.
So
no, that's a fair point.
She has speed. She's going to be short. She can certainly win. I'm not completely against her, but I think that she's going to be so overbet in this spot.
Probably. I'm the worst at judging how horses are going to get better overbet. Horses I expect to get overbet don't. Horses I'm shocked to get overbet that I never expected to get overbet. So I'm the wrong guy to ask on that. I get a lot of these wrong. I think it's a good point that our turf races seem to have declined. I think that's a very fair point. I will say that the rail was probably more a positive factor necessarily than speed at Ellis, and she was off the rail. But I agree. I'm just not. She doesn't finish the deal, and now she's got to go a mile and 8. She's okay, but it seems like at a short price. Where are you going with the 4 Party at Grants?
She's just been so consistent regardless of track, level, distance, or barn that she's been in, and she certainly might not be good enough, but at the same time, the blinkers are now going on to help her possibly be a little bit more forwardly placed because she has just been giving herself so much to do.
Because she has no speed.
And she needs to get out of the gate. At the same time, Engelhardt putting on the blinkers for the first time with maidens, he does have good numbers doing so and stretching horses out within a small sample size. A couple have hit the board at prices. She might not be any good. She needs to get faster. But I just respect that she's been able to sort of run to the level of her competition regardless of where or what level she has been in.
I'm going to say something that I feel is important. I think it's important when you look up stats for Jeremiah Engelhardt that you differentiate between his overall stats and his NYRA stats. For instance, I'll give some stats. Stretching out maidens in their last. He's 16 for 57, 28%, $1.55 ROI. Short-priced horses winning at a fairly high percentage. This is not going to be a short-priced horse. But at NYRA, he's just 3 for 27, which means he's 13 for 30, most likely at Finger Lakes. So for me, a guy like Jeremiah Engelhardt, who runs a lot of horses at Finger Lakes, I don't want to look at his stats. I want to look at his stats at NYRA. Overall, stretching on the dirt, 38 for 168, 25%, 23%, $1.66 ROI. He's 15% at NYRA, 11 for 73. So overall, if you look at his stats, overall his stats are much, much better at Finger Lakes than they are at NYRA. So for me, having looked at them, I would look at those. Listen, the horse is going to be a price. I don't see it, but I've gone to a horse that's going to have to improve as well with the number 2, Miss Our Hero. First time she ran, she did not take any money, but to be fair, she was in a fairly tough maiden race where Stunningly was a pretty big favorite and a pretty likely winner of that race. Revolving Credit improved, ran well the next time out. And at least she ran a little bit. She broke slowly in that race, maybe a length and a half slow, rushed up, chased on the sealed track. Then Bill went to the turf. But you know what? I just don't think she's a turf horse. As it turns out, I'll give her a chance to improve. But listen, she's going to have to improve as well. So your horse needs to improve, so does mine.
At least she hasn't been on a dry track yet, so there's something to potentially look at as far as she's doing something new in here, and she at least won't be close to the favorite either. So
yeah, there's other horses. Dreaming of Mo, $700,000 for this horse, and Carlos Martin ran turf sprinting, but this was a horse that needed more distance first time out. Now let's try the dirt. You know, you don't want to completely dismiss the horse. They paid a lot of money, but isn't Paris Style just a super logical horse? I mean, we both got her second.
Yeah, she's just had a couple of chances, but at the same time, she's been against the racetrack twice in a row now, and she was a horse that was forwardly placed. Two back, that was a race that was wired by She's Mo Bubbly. Then last time out, I mean, she's just
logical.
She's just also run the fastest numbers in this field.
Right, and I think that she is more reliable to get the 9 furlongs than the 3 is. So for the 2 horses that'll be likely the first and second choice,
I'd much rather have her.
I would much, I agree. I just think at the distance she's a little more reliable, and she's not slow. No. She's not going to be far. She's not supposed to be far out of it if she doesn't, as long as she doesn't get left. Supposed to be close. Race number 2 is going to feature an extraordinarily short-priced favorite, and we'll take a look at Chili Flag in here, and I just think it's, barring an incident, it's highly unlikely that she loses. She comes out of an extremely strong race that had absolutely no pace, was wired by a horse not so close who has real talent. Third horse, Sister Lou, improved 4 Beyer points coming back to win. Fourth horse came back and improved 3 Beyer points. This horse has run 2 straight figures that frankly are just way, way too good for these horses. Now obviously, and we'll get to your pick, Implicated, in a minute, we'll show a replay, but the likelihood of her losing is, to me, infinitesimal. And her entry made is a joke. She obviously can't win this race unless Chili Flag just takes a wrong turn out of the gate. I don't see any reason to try to beat a horse. It's going to be 2-5 or 1-2, and I just think she's a living cinch. She's just way too good for this.
She's better than this field for the most part from anything that we've really seen from them so far. And the only issue with her that you might take is that she's just not going to be on or near the lead. Though I will say that she did sit a little bit closer in that one race that she was able to win. That was a slow pace, but at the same time, she just seems like much, much, much the horse to beat. I have no arguments with that whatsoever. She's been able to close into slow paces and really was against it last time with not so close wiring that field.
Now here's Implicated, and obviously Implicated is the only, sort of wild card in here, and she is a horse that ran okay as a 2-year-old that could take a big step forward, and she beat a pretty good horse in Tax Implications in this race. Though Tax Implications should have won, she kind of cost herself the race with her bad behavior.
Right, and just that natural progression from 2 to 3, a horse that we haven't seen since this race. She got a good ground-saving trip, stalking, and Chad Brown has good numbers bringing horses back like this. With her, it was just that I thought she would be sitting a little bit more forward than her uncoupled stablemate in Chili Flag.
He has better numbers with older horses than he does with 3-year-olds. Overall, 250-plus day layoffs and turf routes, 47 for 166, 28% 202 ROI, which is frankly, an astoundingly good stat when you consider the number of starters for a trainer whose horses are always taking a little more money than they're supposed to, or at least for the most part are taking more money than they're supposed to. That are a very, 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 I mean, those horses are winning and they're paying over $7 and they're winning at almost 30%. The huge sample size. Off a win, he's 8 for 35, 23%, 210 ROI. With 3-year-olds, though, he's 9 for 37, so it's not quite as strong with 3-year-olds, but maybe I'm just picking a little bit and it's just not that big a sample size. He's good with the layoffs, but she's going to have to improve an awful lot to beat Chilly Cat. Race number 3, not really a lot of form to go on in race 3, and I think a lot of people are going to go to the number 7 and here crowding out. And we'll go back to 2021, and what's interesting about this race we're showing is the horse who won this race came back on the dirt here just the other day. She's about the 8th pole right now, if you want to find her. I think that race was about 2 or 3 weeks ago. I know, listen, if crowding out were to run the race that she ran, based on the speed figure she ran of a 74, and the race she ran, she's going to win this race. Problem is, Chad Brown went right back to the turf. Nobody else has gone back to the dirt with her. And now that she can't run at all anymore in the turf, they're going to try the dirt with her again. To me, I scratched into her as my 4th pick. She was my 5th pick. I think she is absolute fool's gold in this race, and she's going to be vying for favoritism.
The only thing that I could see as a positive with her is that she's a horse that has speed, or at least did at that one time, and I didn't see a ton of early speed in here, though Lady Shylock probably does have to be forward from that rail position and isn't too slow early. I will say that Walder does have some solid stats with this move in sprints, going turf to dirt with claiming horses. He is 7 for 21 over the past 5 years, so 33%, a $4.21 ROI. That success, however, is at Gulfstream and all before mid-2021. On this circuit, in general, he's only 9 for 131 over the past 5 years. So
doesn't win here. He had a little spurt of time when he won here, but for the most part, he doesn't win here, and his stats in Florida bear no relation to what he does up here. None. Listen, I think this horse is going to be short, and I don't want her. So we both picked the same horse. What do you like about High School Crush?
That this is a horse that was moving towards the inside on the day that the rail was dead, which was the last start that she ran in. She was also coming off a layoff in that spot as well. The start prior to that was one. Looking at a different horse here. Yes, she was off the layoff. They used the waiver to protect her. She was a huge price that day, but I thought that she ran well given the way that the track was playing. And perhaps now with the jockey upgrade, she's a horse that can be a little bit forward and was against it last time out. So I thought that with a fair racetrack today, she's just one that made a lot of sense now towards the outside.
The horse who actually spent the entire race on the rail there was the number 5, Swedish Sugar.
Yes.
So she's a horse, if you're going to use the dead rail, you've got to use her somewhere. Now, she was in the 2-pass. She moved the rail for probably about half the race. She did move off the rail in the stretch, but she picks up Dylan Davis. She's also second off a pretty long layoff. And the reality is, who are the 2 horses that seem to have potential form? One is Scratch, and the other one's Lady Shylock. And I'm not going to be surprised if Lady Shylock just wins this race. She's probably going to be sitting second to Crowded Out, as you pointed out, and I agree with. And she has back races, but I'll tell you something. It's been a long time since we've seen those races. And winning an off-the-turf race, the 16-claimer at Monmouth, doesn't exactly scream to me that she's back in great form. But in this field, she's probably the horse to beat.
Right, and really just given the level of competition surrounding her, I think that's why you have to include her somewhere. But I wasn't too enthused by her last race either, and the one before that, she did spurt away from them, but that was, as you mentioned, an off-the-turf race, and she didn't change leads either.
But this isn't exactly the most
this is not a thrilling field,
non-off-the-turf race.
But I think you made a good point, too, about Swedish Sugar. This is a horse that was glued to the rail for the entirety of that race. And her form, it's not great, but at the same time, she has a very legitimate excuse for that last race.
She does. I agree. Her form is terrible lately, and that's the problem with her. But to me, playing multi-race bets, I would pitch the 7 here and use the 1, 5, and 8 and hope to get either the 5 or 8 home. I don't mind the 1's favor because if I'm right about the 7, it doesn't matter that the 1's the shortest price because you've already eliminated the takeout effectively by getting rid of the 7 crowding out. And I think this is something that's missed with the completely wrong notion of dismissing favorites in multi-race bets. The question is, how are you layering your bets? And in this case, to me, the value is crowding out. She wins, I lose. Race number 4, we are unfortunately off the turf. I was surprised that Ms. Big Buck scratched. I don't know, maybe she was a vet scratch. She seemed awfully logical in this race.
I looked.
Yeah, I was surprised Michelle didn't leave her in. She had run well, and especially, with Sue Ellen Michigan ending up being, I assume, a vet scratch, there isn't really that much speed in this race. So you've
Precisely.
gone to the horse who's coming in from Remington. You love those Remington shippers?
No, I love a horse that's likely to now be the speed with the scratch of Miss Big Bucks as well as Sue Ellen Michigan, who, look, she might not be good enough, but she has speed and she could be alone out there with those scratches. She's capable of rating. She likely won't need to. And I will say that first time going out for the Bonds, he does have good numbers with that over the past 5 years with a small sample size. 4 for 19, 21%. One of them was 15-1, one of them 7-1. So it's an inflated $3.68 ROI. But at least when the horses are coming to his barn for the first time, he usually gets them to go out there and do something on the racetrack. And this is a field where if nobody else goes, it could end up working out for her.
Well, you don't think that Rebo's Valentine's going to be reasonably close here? I mean, you don't think that Callie Magic, who's not that fast, but she can be a bit forward, you really think they're going to be that compromised by Cousin Christie being the speed in here?
I don't think they're going to be overly compromised, but they will be shorter prices.
Right, but they're going to be shorter prices because they're considerably more likely to win this race. Listen, she'll be a price in here. I'm not going to knock her. She's a new face. My experience with form from Remington Park in dealing with Oaklawn last year is you don't want that form going from Remington Park to Oaklawn. So I definitely don't want that form going from Remington Park to Aqueduct. That's just me. So I don't trust horses coming from Louisiana Downs or Evangeline Downs in general. That's form that I don't know what planet they're racing on down there, but it doesn't go from planet to planet, as I'm sure you've recognized. So I get it.
Sometimes we can see it and sometimes we can't.
Right, never run against New York breds. What I think is weird is that despite the fact that this horse has run in the dirt and has some numbers that put her in the ballpark.
They did want her on the turf.
And she's got no turf pedigree to speak of at all. In fact, negative turf. The Dam was a much better dirt horse. Jimmy entered her on the turf. Now, you could say maybe he thought, I suppose it could come off, but it really wasn't supposed to, right?
No, they did like her on the turf. I talked to CJ. Well, my friend talked to CJ.
Right, so
who owns her. They did want her on the grass.
Right. Well, they're probably lucky that it came off the turf because she wasn't going to win the turf either. So that kind of, listen, she's a price. I went logical here. I just think Callie Magic is a better horse than these horses, and she's off the claim for Linda Rice, though claiming from Chris Engelhard is not something that's the easiest thing to do.
And she was a little compromised last time, too.
Because she was wide, and the rail was the place to be. I thought Rebo's Valentine ran fine in that race. She, too, was wide in there, and I just think they're better horses than these. I mean, Temperamental's not impossible, and she's better off cutting back a little in distance.
Yeah, I do like that, but I also worried that she might not be quite as good.
Yeah, that was really my concern with her, but you're taking a shot. We'll see what happens with Cousin Christie racing here for the first time. Race number 5. I don't think too often I do what I did in this race. I went 1, 2, 3, 4 in here. Tell you one thing about race number 5. There ain't no form.
No, there's nothing happening in here. Nothing.
Kadula coming back 20 minutes after racing just the other day. Mm-hmm. For me, handicapping this race, I think I handicapped it Saturday night. I'm like, didn't Kadula just run like 5 minutes ago or something, right?
And we were like, oh, well, we just watched that, so
right, literally.
I know who he is, so that's fine. Look, he's a horse that's just making that logical type of drop off the short rest now. He's cutting back in distance. His best effort so far remains his debut. I don't love that.
He's too obvious for you. This is not a Sarah type pick. You're not usually jumping on the Joe Obvious types.
Well,
I don't disagree with you, by the way.
I wish there was a first-time starter that I saw some good numbers or some pedigree or some works.
There's some
or
wonderful
some
pedigrees
something.
here with these firsters. Woo-hoo.
The 8, it seemed like the first-time starter that was working the best. Star Sequence, that one's not in, so here we are.
I agree. This is a race that you definitely looked at the first-time starters and said, if one of these appeals to me, I'm going to be picking him. I don't disagree. I've taken a Knight's Courage. You know, you look at the Muddy Seal Track race and throw that out. This horse has 2 races sprinting first time, and that race was a mile. They were actually totally, similar figs to what Kadula's been running. Would be a bigger price, so I put him on top. I have no argument with you on Kadula. Obviously, all the things you said are logical. And, you've got a Charlie Baker horse dropping that didn't take a nickel, the 3, and did 0 running. But in this field, I'm not dismissing Charlie, and I'm sure, we have the same horses. And then you've got the Kenny McPeak horse who's basically done 0 running, but the fig last time a 40, frankly, makes the horse a player here.
Exactly. This is a horse that was gaining some forward position after being near the back early, but not exactly running well. However, you have to think, looking around, this one could have a chance. And
I'm looking at something on my phone relative to this race, but go on. I'm sorry.
it's okay. You can text back.
No, it's not texting.
all right.
I'll tell you in a second.
It's
You know what
okay.
I'm doing? I'm seeing how much money is better than the 3 that the horse is currently 1-4 in the first race. But go ahead.
Interesting.
Right.
When you talk about the 3, Smile Takes Charge, Charlie Baker, he had first-time blinkers on dirt with 2-year-olds. He's 0-18 past 5 years. David Donk doesn't have great numbers switching horses maiden special weight to maiden claiming, but does it matter in this
Numbers
field?
don't matter in this field. If you're going to
No.
use stats in a race the only way you'd use stats in this race is if you found something obscure where somebody had a reasonable sample size and something they did well. But negative stats, when they're 2 for 27, one of the 2 wins or both of them were in this race. You know, there's $4,800 bet to win in the number 3, so somebody just couldn't wait and had to get their like $4,000 bet.
Maybe they're
in
on their way to work and they
on
just
the
needed
3.
to
Okay.
get that done and over with.
Good luck, sir or ma'am, with that bet. All right, we done with the first 5?
I'm definitely done with the 5th.
All right, we'll be back with the late pick 4 after a quick break.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.
Welcome back to Talking Horses. Sarah Albagui and Andy Serling as we go through today's card in the 6th race, Camp a Strong Race. You know, our friend David Aragona, I'm going to tease him here. He may have caught a break with his pick, Cowboy Justice, scratching. You have not caught a break. You're going to have to discuss your pick here, and I'm going to wait. I'm going to hold off.
This is slightly less insane.
No, it isn't. His pick actually had some validity to it. Yours is insane. But that's fine. His horse had a trip last time. I didn't
know,
like
but
him,
before that, what was there to look at? Because I looked at that horse too, because I usually think, oh,
I don't think he had a chance. I think David's happy that he scratched. I think David's thinking, good, I don't have to lose him, and I get a chance to make fun of him. So that's always good.
And we do love making
Harry
fun of
Gold
everyone.
getting scratched from here,
Does not
whether
help
you
me.
liked him or not, does take some of the speed out of the race.
Precisely.
And I mean, I don't think Midnight Trouble or Jamie Dean's Dreams winning. It probably helps a horse like James Aloysius, you know, who can get in good position. He's probably oddly one of the best beneficiaries of the scratch, but it also hurts this horse, Fort Washington. And Fort Washington, we both have 3rd. He feels like he's going to end up being the favorite. We'll take a look at him at Kentucky Downs. And I don't like betting horses off Kentucky Downs races, but he runs similar figs. I'll tell you something. He got some great ride from Jose Ortiz in this race. I mean, Jose had a number of times where he could have gone outside, and he kind of hinted, he was thinking, and he actually realized, you know what, I can duck back in, and it's a long stretch there and angle out. And he's come at the end, and somebody say, oh, you know, he waited too long. BS. He gave this horse.
it's like he basically won.
This
I
was
mean,
this
he
was a
right
great,
there.
great. This is the kind of ride, and Jose, I get frustrated, Jose, and I love Jose, but he frustrates me. But these are the kind of rides that show you why he's one of the absolute best riders in the country. It's a great, great ride he gave this horse. The problem with him is he has no speed. Now you get a speed scratching out of the race, and
Precisely.
he doesn't win. And why doesn't he win? Because he has no speed.
Right.
And he also got a great ride last time. And
He
I just
did.
don't see him getting the same kind of trip today. Can he win? Sure. He's a tough horse to take at a short price.
Exactly, and all the things that I have sort of against him, I end up having against the horse that I ended up picking on top as well with Wicked Finn. It's just that he's going to be a much, much bigger price. And he wins a little bit more often now against lesser company, but at the same time, his form on the turf so far over the course of the spring to the summer hasn't been that bad. He's stepped up in class, he's run well, even running a 2nd place finish last time to St. Anthony, a horse who's not that bad, maybe not of this caliber, but definitely not that bad as far as his class in the Red Bank.
Didn't he come back and run 2 significantly worse races in his next 2 starts?
St. Anthony?
Yeah.
Not really.
I have him running like 8 buyer points worse or
Well, let's find out.
10 worse or something. I feel like I have something written down. It's been a long
No,
time.
his last start was that Red Bank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, races before it. What
Yeah.
figures did he run before it?
An 89 in the start prior, winning to a 93.
Okay.
Yeah,
What am I writing down here?
That's okay. I do the same
No,
thing.
no. I'm
And I'm
trying
like,
to,
oh, what horse am I talking about?
I think this horse has been running against dramatically inferior horses, and I don't think he can compete here. But hey, listen, he'll be a price, so I'm not. I just think the competition is considerably stronger in this race. But listen, at least he's in good form, and I'll give him that. The horse that I'm not thrilled with, and I scratched in the 4th, is Ammirati.
Yeah.
He was awful last time out. I mean, the horse who was the sprinter stretching out
The
finished
fact that Bring
second
Me
there.
a Check passed him again.
I just feel like it's best. You know that he was like a $2 or $4 million yearling purchase.
Oh, really?
Oh, he's a crazy expensive yearling because Mike Dubb likes to joke, and they claimed him for very little, maybe 50. They didn't pay much for him. They've done great with him. I mean, it doesn't matter what happens from this point. Maybe they claim for 80, whatever they claim for. He said it's my best $2 million horse or something. It was at least $2 million. I think Ammirati was a very, very expensive yearling purchase, I believe yearling. And I much prefer Napoleonic War, and I'm not always big on these blinker things, but this horse
makes
ran
sense.
extremely well off the layoff. He was forward in a race that fell apart late, and he lost some ground, he had an outside post. I thought he really, and he stunk last time. And either he just ran well off the layoff and you don't want him anymore, which is possible, or you have to wonder about the blinkers and Chad taking the blinkers off. So it's interesting. Fergal Lynch is riding this horse, right? Yeah. Fergal rode the filly that Chad ran back, Root Cause, in the Virginia Oaks and gave her an absolutely brilliant ride that day. And I wonder if that was one of the reasons, looking for riders, why he used him. And I think one of David's reasons, because I look at him and think, he can't possibly be 6-1. I wonder if David's feeling is
Jockey.
with Fergal Lynch, people probably won't bet as much in this horse. I got no problem with Fergal riding him.
Yeah, no,
Although
I don't
maybe a
either.
change because somebody's pretending to me.
I will say that this is not a rider you see on this circuit ride often for Chad Brown, so perhaps the public might look at that and think, why?
I think Fergal's good.
However, I don't have any problems with this rider either. I think that the blinkers situation, he was keen in the very early stages of that race last time. I feel as though he did settle ultimately and just didn't really have much punch, but now they come right back off, and that race 2 back, just as you said, was extremely good. And I think that wanting to think that he could get back to that type of race would make him very, very tough in
Right.
here.
Now, listen, his last race concerning, you use the blinkers as an excuse, but a lot of times that's just fool's gold. James Aloysius seems dangerous going to Tom Morley in this race. He had a good trip last time out, but he was also down the rail early. Now, he got off the rail, and that was the dead rail time, particularly that weekend at Saratoga. So he got off the rail. I don't think he was right on the rail for that significant a portion, but enough to move him up, and I think he fits in here. And given the scratches, he's going to be the best horse, I believe, that's forward.
Yeah, that's fair.
It makes him very usable, but this is a fun race. And Daunt's not impossible.
I was just thinking about him, so
He just
I'm
needs
glad
more
you mentioned.
distance.
Yeah.
His last race was not good.
No, it wasn't. But he's been consistent too. I mean, he's just
Yeah, he wants more distance. I think there's nothing that Bobby can do. They're not running the races that he's eligible for at a distance. Race number 7, well, form is at a bit of a premium here, and I imagine the horse to beat is Sail to the Wind. I didn't like her last race, but I still think she's the horse to beat off it.
right. You don't like to see that type of regression, and she did end up getting beat in that spot. But at the same time, even regressing a little bit, it still makes her extremely logical and competitive in this spot as well.
And Sweetest Princess, who was a preposterous overlay at 4-1 last time.
She's not that bad.
2-1. She's actually got decent dirt form, so it's not bad. But she is a horse that's been in 2 off the turf races that's now in a scheduled dirt race, even though they're not particularly good dirt horses. Okay, Dashing Della.
Speed has been outrunning her odds in both of her last 2 starts, and I think that there's not a ton of other horses that want to be as forward as she is in this spot. She also draws towards the outside, advantageous outside speed, just as she was last time out in that off the turf race, and I think that she's a horse that could be coming back into some decent form, and I like that she's staying with the state breds at this level.
Okay. Cara Parra is going to take a lot of money off her win last time, and she was very much with the flow of the race. The racetrack the rail was bad, and I don't like the fact the horse finished second, who was on the rail, came back and was a very disappointing second in an off-the-turf race, and I wonder how good it was. Now, I know she's in good form, Cara Parra, and this win certainly surprised me in here. Even with the flow of the race, I'm surprised she was able to win. I just don't trust this horse and think the track had much more to do with her victory in this race. And I think overall she was probably second best to a horse that came back and kind of ran a stinker. She's going to beat me in here. I got her third, but I'm not a fan.
Yeah, I think that this is the type of horse that I'd really want to completely toss, but when you look around, there isn't much else going on that I could completely dismiss her, though I do agree with everything that you're saying, that she was helped by the way the racetrack was playing last time. She was wide, the rail was dead, and even her prior two starts, they don't necessarily indicate that that's the kind of performance that you were going to get from her, but again, looking at the rest of this field, there just isn't much else to go on, and even her last two races before that, they don't leave her out of the equation completely.
So Big Hazel, take a look at her win 3 back. She runs her win, she's going to win this race. She runs her other races, she's going to lose. She completely and totally fell apart. Now, you know, maybe she came back a little quickly off the bad effort 2 back and then was just basically eased. But David brings her back, and you feel as though something just went badly wrong with her. She actually, interestingly enough, she worked just 9 days after her terrible effort last time. And then she was off for almost a month. So it feels like maybe they discovered something was going on. Obviously nothing serious because she's back very quickly. I don't trust her at all, but I think the 3 is the worst to beat. I don't want to pick her because I'm just not sure she's really that good. I wish her the best of luck with the 8. I think Cara Parra can win, but I don't want to pick her. I don't know where else to go, and I know Big Hazel has a race that can win it. And she won't be that short a price. Obviously, she's impossible to trust, but she does have a race 3 back that will make her extremely tough in here. So I took her off that.
All right.
Race number 8 is a very good running in the Glen Cove. Thank God we moved this from last Sunday so we could run it on the turf and the field, the body of the race stays intact. And the horse you have on top is Danse Macabre. And we'll take a look at Danse Macabre running second last time out to Secret Money, who really ran for Brennan Walsh, who had tremendous meets down in Kentucky. And Brennan's been having a great year overall. He's a terrific trainer and as a likely favorite for the 3-year-old Eclipse, pretty mischievous. I don't have a knock on her. I just think she's the horse to beat like you do. I picked her second. But
exactly. I went through this field. It's a fun field. This is a good rendition of this race, the 3rd one in the row, but she's just a horse that's been ultra consistent and has shown up in each of her races. She's been able to go farther. She has numbers that completely fit with the rest of this field. And she was also coming off a little bit of a break as well in that race last time out. And I don't think that it was costing her the win, but there is some bumping in the late stages of that race, and she does kind of get knocked off stride a little bit. So perhaps without that, she ends up being a little bit closer to that eventual winner, and she just makes a lot of sense as a tactical type that's going to save ground.
I don't disagree. Future Is Now, the 5, is an interesting horse. It's hard to know what to do with her. She is, unless she falls coming out of the gate, she's going to be in front here. She's fast. And it's hard because you take a horse off a giant win at 5 furlongs, and often these races don't transfer to 6 furlongs. But she's not going to be a short price. And this was an extremely good effort. She absolutely smashed the field she was running against. And all the horses in there, they ran to their numbers. Maybe they could even run a little bit higher. So there's nothing wrong with that figure. Timeform has it fast. Beyer has it fast. She's got to go from 5 to 6, but I'm scared of this horse, very scared of this horse.
Hasn't Mike Trombetta won both editions of this race so far as well?
I don't know, but I'll take your word for it. I like Mike.
So you can tell he's bringing a horse, the type that could win this race, even if this one is coming in from out of town. So I think that sometimes, and I do this, and I know you do too, looking at that out-of-town form, you want to sort of decide how it's going to translate to these types of races. But I think this is a horse that probably fits, and I respect this one coming in. The number last time, I believe, is legitimate just like you do, and this horse is fast. You kind of want to see it against competition like this. That's the only thing.
6, especially. Love Appeal's a funny horse. One of my worries with Love Appeals, and I think the races, the horses we have 1, 2, 3, 4 are the 4 toughest horses in here. Not to say someone else couldn't win, but they won't be on my tickets. I worry a little bit. I don't know how much give there is in the ground. They haven't listed good. We'll see. Took a race on the turf. We'll see. Take a look at the times. He goes, she did not run particularly well last time. She ran a lot better in her second 2 and 3 back races, and those were very firm courses. And there was a bit of give. I don't think there was that much give last time, but there was a bit of give. And that worries me because I didn't like her last race.
I didn't love it either. I wish that we had seen her be a little bit more forwardly placed last time, because she had been when she was having so much success. And she did have a legitimate trip 2 back, but at the
But she
same
didn't have one last time. Did a good trip. She got a great ride from Manny, I thought. She get outrun early? That was a fast field.
It was, and I kind of worry about her a little bit. I wish that I had more of an excuse for her last race. I think that you do as well.
I have none. I thought she was awful. Honestly, I thought it was just a basic non-effort. But she's good enough that she still ran 4th and didn't really run. No, I'm not dismissing her. I like Personal Pursuit. We'll take a look at her last race, an 8-length win. And the reality is that the thing that annoyed me most about this was that I wasn't able to get 9 to 5 in a race where she should have been 1 to 5. I mean, literally looking at the field she beat.
Oh, yeah.
She should have been 1 to 5.
she's
She
so
actually
overmatched.
didn't break. She broke a length and a half slow in here. And, I mean, just destroyed this field. And the thing about her is, this is a 5.5, 6 furlong. This is a turf sprinter. And she spent most of her career in the absolute wrong races. And if you go back and you look at her matron, which I recommend people do, take a look at the race she ran. Watch the head out of the start. She was just completely and totally eliminated at the start of that race, just taken out of the race completely. And there is an argument that in a fairly run race, she could have won that day. She ran super in there. Her last race was very good, and I think her form is dirtied up by the fact that basically she's run 11 times, and 9 of them were in the wrong race. And if you take the 2 races she was in the right race, she's pretty damn good. And I thought her last race was good, albeit against nobody. And you could argue she's similar to Future Is Now, fast race against much lesser horses. But I just think she's a horse that's supposed to have been a turf sprinter her entire career. And hopefully, this is where she's going to stay from now on.
She should get some pace, too.
Yeah, I'm not that worried. I don't know. You know, I'm more worried that she's going to get left. That's my biggest concern. She's got to get out of the gate. And I'm worried, listen, you say some pace, but I'm worried the speed, Future Is Now, might never stop it here. You know, Ticker Tape on the other, Cassie, I see as talented enough to be a factor. Maybe I'd wonder if, though, this horse is not better with less distance. That's what worries me about that horse. Not that she's impossible.
I agree. I think that she wants to go a little bit further, and 2, she would have had the opportunity to run on turf if that's what they wanted up at Woodbine. They've kept her on the synthetic.
Well, Mark was running Personal Pursuit in all kinds of odd spots, so it's not like he's been known to occasionally pick odd spots. This is a trainer that has extremely good numbers when horses have been running the turf, going turf to dirt in maiden races overall, so, you know.
Should we give a quick mention to Don't Look Back at All, who we don't like at all?
Okay, go ahead.
Well, it's just a horse that's likely to take money based on her last 2 races, but I think that she's gotten perfect trips and really had things go totally her own way against lesser company. That's all.
No, that's fine. No, it's fine. I agree. Yeah, I thought the horse was walking on the front end. I think Lady Beth is the horse you have to mention. I mean, she did run a figure that's competitive last time. I thought she was awful in that race, but to be fair, it was her first race in 4 months, and there were better horses. Now, it was a moderately paced race that was dominated on the front end, so in all fairness, you know, maybe it's just, you know, she ran badly in the race, but she cuts back, and maybe Chad Brown says he thinks these horses, they get a little bit overeager, and he wants to get a little more pace in there. I won't be shocked if she runs well. I'm just not sure how good she really is.
Same. That's kind of why I ended up leaving her off. I liked her on debut and then going forwards a little bit, but I just don't know if she quite classes up.
He has negligible stats, turning back in the turf, 17 for 85, 20%, $1.78 ROI. They're not bad. They're not great, but they're certainly not bad. But they don't indicate anything special. It works sometimes. It does in others. Race number 9, there's 3 horses that are going to take the bulk of the play. I do want to start with a horse that I have 3rd and you have 4th, Francesco Clemente, who I thought was one of the worst favorites of the entire year last time out. This horse has trouble getting out of the gate. The race on the turf, 2 back, when the horse ran 2nd, bolted on the turn. I'll tell you something. This horse will probably be better with more distance in here. But I think there's a massive question on how good this horse really is. But maybe in here, he's good enough to win.
Right, that's exactly what I wrote, that more distance was likely to benefit this one. 2 of his wins in Europe were at the 1.25 miles, but he did win on debut at a mile. So I get that now adding the blinkers, this is a horse that was just absolutely, totally left at the gate last time. But I don't know that this horse is really all that and is going to be a short price.
Yeah, I'm not a giant fan of his. I am a fan of Cyber Ninja in here, and I like Cyber Ninja quite a bit. Thought he ran fine last time. Catcher Party did run well in here to beat him, but he's a New York bred that's run some good races in the past, and I think the distance suits him in here. He should get a reasonable enough trip. I just thought he was super logical, and of the two logical horses, the 1 and 9, I just preferred him a little bit. It's not a total coin flip for me. It's sort of, probably like him a little bit more, but I don't have a knock on Swore, who we'll get to in a moment, shows replay. Why do you like Royal Spirit more than him?
Just that he's had more opportunities and is going to sit a little bit closer. I mean, he was the one that tried to go after that pace setter first. I don't feel as though the pace totally fell apart, but Catch That Party and Cyber Ninja were the two horses that were coming from the back of the pack, and just thought that he would get more forward position, but I don't necessarily think that he's a better horse.
I mean, I think the fact he's had more opportunities is a negative, to be honest with you. I think that Cyber Ninja is a horse that's significantly more upside. I know he's also a shorter price, but I think he's significantly more likely to win. We'll see what happens with them. As far as Swore, we'll take a look at him. This is the race in Saratoga, and I think it's important to show this race because this was one of the most ridiculous beats of the year, if you like this horse this day, because he was going to win. And I think that's why it's important to show. He's on the outside, sort of the middle right now, moving into third on the outside, the 1. And as he's going by the horse who's in front, the number 2, was disqualified in here. That horse will bear out and plow into him, and it costs him the race. I'm happy for my friend Bill Lawrence that it helped him get a win. But
yeah,
as
he does
you
get
see,
slammed.
he was totally stopped, so he shouldn't even been in the maiden race. I'll tell you one thing, though. He beat a field of absolute mediocrities last time at Kentucky Downs, but I don't know if what happens at Kentucky Downs even matters. But isn't he going to take a lot of money because he got an 85 at Kentucky Downs? And
Sure.
I like him off his race 2 back, not last time.
I will say that last time, going 1.5 miles, he was always pretty wide in that race. So I think this is just that run all day type of horse because he never really had the opportunity to save any ground. It was just much the best. I don't think against much. But he certainly has the stamina to have run that race without having any sort of cover-up whatsoever. And he wasn't that far away either, I will say. And Faraday, I know that he had the luckiest of lucky situations in that race that
he may be okay. He came
at
back in a nice
Saratoga.
race.
But
Yeah.
he came back to win, so
No,
he wasn't facing totally nobody 2 back either.
Stats. Off of maiden wins and turf routes, Graham Motion is 15 for 87 over the last 5 years, 17% with a $1.38 ROI. With horses going 9.5 furlongs, 1 3/16 or higher, he's 0 for 7 with 3 hitting the board. So his numbers off maiden wins aren't that great. That bothered me, and frankly, that was kind of the splitter for me. If Graham had better numbers off maiden wins,
Would've gone
I
9.
probably would have taken him. I think Cyber is slightly more likely to win. The price could dictate it. If they stay at basically the same price as David has them, I'm happy with Cyber Ninja. But if one of them ends up a much shorter price than the other one, I'd be happy with whoever the one who's a significantly better price is. Because, I think they are the 2 major players, especially for me, because I don't want Francesco Clementi.
But I'm glad he's here
Well,
to take money.
I will say, and this will drive the lunatics that don't understand how to hit, pick sixes and make money, crazy, I would have him on a pick 6 ticket or a pick 5 ticket, depending on where I'm going. I'm not letting Big Hazel win and missing the pick 5 and going 4 for 5 with that horse winning the last race, Francesco Clementi. And anybody that thinks that's a wrong way to play, that's fine. I'm happy to have their money in the pool because that's not the right way to play. And it's not a question of using favorites defensively that the idiots like to say. It's using logical winners defensively. I don't ever use a horse just because they're favored. But you have
If you
to
don't
look at
like
them.
the
But the
favorite,
reality
it's a different
is,
argument.
the favorite is the horse to beat in an extraordinarily high percentage of the races, whether you like them, I like them, or you like them. The money is smart, and people that don't think the money is smart are the same people that are complaining on the internet that the money's smart. So the horse whose favorite is highly likely to win is the most likely winner, not highly likely to win, most likely winner. Doesn't mean you don't want to play against that horse. And there are different ways to approach it. But to suggest that the horse, you don't like it and you shouldn't use it, you're kind of missing the point of how you make money betting in multi-race bets. There's more than one way to skin a cat. But to tell people, the problem is the people that follow that approach tell you there's not. They say they're right and the others are wrong. And people can play however they like. But summarily dismissing the likeliest winner of a race, that's a very dangerous route to go, especially in multi-race sequences, depending on who you're using in the other legs. All decisions are predicated by who you're using in other legs. It's a complicated game, and it's one of the more fun ways to look at it, and the worst thing you can do is have absolutes.
Well, I think exactly. So many people are so tied to having to have that defined decision or not be comfortable with a more fluid situation and have everything depend on another variable as well. And I think that's why so many people get so stuck in whatever way it is that they want to play, whether it's working for them or not, because they think that things have to be a certain way and they never do. It's like when anybody asks a question of how you bet or what you would do in this situation, and they get frustrated when I say, it depends. Well,
Every
depends.
decision, it's like the conversation about pick sixes, and I've played pick sixes for many, many years. I don't play them anymore, is that somebody says, that was my next use in this race. Okay, fine. The problem is every race has a next use. And if your ticket was 2x3x4, and I'm just using a caveman ticket, whatever it was, $400, if you add your ticket was $400, you add your next use in every race, you're now looking at a $10,000 ticket. So,
and how often are you playing those?
Right, and that's the thing. In every decision you make, and you say to yourself, like 8 and 9, I'll use an example. Would I rather use 4 in this race and 2 in another race, or 3 and 3? Is using the third horse in the race I'm going to use 2 better than using the fourth horse at a relatively similar amount of money? And if you're playing them seriously, it's like, here's another thing on a totally more esoteric level. Depending on the size of the pool, there's a very strong argument you're not supposed to ever play pick sixes where you use 3 30-to-1 shots in the same ticket, because you will never get paid correctly. The payoffs, regardless, unless the pool is in the millions, will never be commensurate to the odds of that happening. And so theoretically, are you supposed to actually have tickets in there where you're,
because it will never be enough.
50,000 to 1 to win, and the pool can only pay $40,000? These are all discussion points, and they're all somewhat related. And what makes the game as interesting it is how complicated it is, and how many different ways there are to look at it. And I think sometimes that gets lost. But once again, that's what makes it fun. And the pari-mutuel game is the best way to play. Now we just got to get rid of entries. Head over to NYRA Bets. For instance, there's an entry, right, where one entry got scratched. Luckily, we're in for first money only. It didn't affect the race the other day, but got rid of entries, that wouldn't happen. $200 sign-up bonus plus a $25 free bet as we get near the Breeders' Cup, just 15 days away to opening the first of 2 days of the Breeders' Cup. Cup 25 is the new promo code. Go over to nyrabets.com and sign up. We have 3 pick 4s, 2, 3, and 6, 2 pick 5s, 1 and 5, and America's Day at the Races, 12:30 to 5 on FS2. Sarah, thank you very much.
Anytime.
I'm done. She's done. Johnny I, he's just getting started. He's back in the booth. Chris Griffin did a great job this weekend, by the way, and he'll be joining us full-time. Johnny I, only 2 more weeks of Johnny I, actually,
wow,
before we don't see him again until the spring. I have to make sure to see him before he leaves town. And I was talking to you about it, that Chris really doing a good job, and he had a particularly good call specifically over the weekend. I think one of the hardest things.
Caught one of those long shots.
Well,
that was making a big move early
on. What
on.
differentiates announcers, and it's something that the very best announcers are very good at, is I couldn't call a race, but just telling people who are 1, 2, 3 is what it is. It's picking up moves by horses. And when an announcer sees a horse that's making a move and that horse and predicts it, because I think to judge an announcer who's exceptional, don't watch the race, listen to the call, and ask yourself if they painted a picture that told you what was going on in there. And listen, I can't do it. It's an incredibly difficult job. But I think Chris is really doing a great job. And Johnny I always does a great job. He's up next. Reprise the Scratch and Changes. Have a great day.
For almost 150 years, the Saratoga name has been synonymous with the finest quality, sustainably sourced spring water available anywhere. Saratoga carries on the rich tradition of its forefathers by crafting each stunning blue glass bottle with the same attention to detail and care that has been its hallmark for generations. Visit SaratogaSpringwater.com today or ask for us by name at your local market or restaurant. Saratoga Spring Water. Make every day exquisite.